Greetings ladies and gents, welcome back to the Craft Hammer. I'm your host Stefan, and in today's episode we're going to be opening up the floodgates by asking a simple yet broad question. What exactly is Warhammer? It's come across your YouTube homepage, you've got a buddy who won't stop talking about it. You've seen the store on the high street, but as of yet you've never bothered to go in. Now it keeps popping up more often, so you've decided to take the plunge and figure out what it's all about. In this video, I'm going to try and give you a short summary of what Warhammer is. First though, two quick things. We are going to leave the Middle-earth strategy battle game to the side, as it's technically not owned by Games Workshop themselves. It will just make things easier and avoid confusion. Now the second point is that I don't plan to go into extreme detail regarding each game system, but instead I want to give an overarching view so that it's much easier to navigate the Warhammer ecosystem. Now the first thing to do is to talk about the company itself, Games Workshop. Giving the quickest history lesson, it was founded in 1975. It originally created wooden board games such as backgammon, before eventually it became a distributor for Dungeons and Dragons. Over time, it would restructure and refocus so that it would be creating its own games and its own IP. This of course would be spearheaded by their two miniature wargames, Warhammer Fantasy Battle and eventually Warhammer 40,000. Games Workshop has grown and expanded its IP, allowing people to participate and enjoy the Warhammer ecosystem in a variety of different ways. This is one point that I want to highlight within this video. The Warhammer ecosystem is made up of a number of hobbies, which allows people to pick and choose what appeals to them. So let's start with the first and easiest one to get out of the way. Back in the late 90s, Games Workshop created a subsidiary called Black Library. This would become their in-house publishing company, which would produce a variety of novels and books to accompany the games that they created. So if you're into reading books, whether they be fantasy or science fiction, Black Library has you covered, as they are consistently expanding upon the lore and bringing out new stories to read. And now, while we're here talking about paper, we might as well also mention the role-playing games that Games Workshop has licensed out. For those who are unsure what that means, it's a similar concept to Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're into roleplay, you can definitely find some Warhammer themed books out there. Now, we are going to go in a different direction and talk about video games. Quite a popular avenue for people to be introduced to Warhammer. Games Workshop has licensed out their IP to a variety of different game studios. Over time, more and more games have been produced by different game studios, and considering its growing popularity, the amount of games will increase as they gain traction within the gaming sphere. All I can say is head over to Steam and there's a variety of options to choose from. Now, let's head on over to the meat and potatoes of this video and talk about the actual miniatures themselves. Currently, when you go over to the Games Workshop site, you are going to be met with three main game systems: Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer the Horus Heresy. You might also notice that under the boxed game section, there are also a number of other game systems that are derived from the top three. There is a lot of miniatures on the site and far too much detail to go into for each game system. So I'm going to try and break it all down for you. When you buy a box of miniatures, what you're going to find inside, for the most part, is a plastic sprue. Miniatures are broken down into a number of components. You will need to get yourself some clippers and some glue for the assembly part. For some people, this is their whole hobby. They enjoy the process of building up the kit, but more importantly, they adore combining multiple kits into one model. Now, of course, we won't be stopping just here. Your next step will be to get the model ready with primer paint before you take out your collection of acrylic paints and fill in all the details. Similar to before, painting miniatures is its own hobby. Some people only buy miniatures that they think are cool so that they can either build or paint them up. Outside of Warhammer, there are other companies that create their own miniature lines. Some are specifically just to be display pieces after being painted up. So if you're into your acrylic paints, this part of the hobby might be for you. Now, you've built your miniatures and you've painted them up, so what exactly do you do with them? This is where the plethora of gaming systems comes into effect. The overarching hobby is tabletop wargaming. This will roughly translate into firstly, mustering your force. Depending on which game system you intend to play, this could constitute that you combine a large amount of models to create an army for your war game, or you might be more interested in the skirmish games that will only require you to have a single squad. Once you and your opponent have mustered your forces, the next part is to play the actual game. Though the rules might be different across the different games, the overall concept is pretty much the same. You are given rules on how to move your models across the battlefield, how to shoot a variety of different weapons, how to cast a spell, and of course, how to fight in close combat. Like numerous games out there, you have objectives to capture and enemies to destroy. The easiest way to picture it is chess, but with a lot more options. Now that is a very short and rough idea of what Warhammer actually is. You get to build up your miniatures, give them a lick of paint, and follow some rules on how to play. Now, of course, you might have guessed this already, but considering that you are watching this on YouTube, I don't think you'll be surprised to know that there's a variety of content available on YouTube regarding the hobby. People love to paint, to build, and play games. There's probably more tutorials on the site than you could ever feasibly actually watch in your lifetime. Though it might be a niche hobby, it has a lot to offer. Just remember, I definitely didn't cover every detail in this video, but I think that overall you would have gotten an idea of what the hobby is all about. There's plenty of content out there that delves into more detail than I have, and going on in the future I do plan to give my 2 cents on a variety of more parts of the hobby. There's different ways to approach it, so stay tuned as we delve into that. For now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like, maybe share your thoughts or ask some questions in the comments below. I will be back soon with another video, so until then, take care folks.